All good.
Yeah, so the gallery view, who is doing that? Okay, I didn't do that. Okay. Where is that gallery view?
Gallery view, and then making sure only video participants are showing, because some of the attendees are also there, but then they have their videos off. So.
Right. Okay, so.
And what Srini doesn't know.
Okay, what is it now? Okay, on the YouTube, it hasn't really. Okay, now it is coming on the YouTube. Okay. So. Okay, when do I say, where do I say go, Jayant, now? Once I see on the YouTube, automatically it is live or?
Yeah, no, but actually I'm seeing it. It's already live.
Oh, it's live?
It's live version. Yeah, we are able to. No, usually we have to go live, but it went live in the YouTube now. So you can toggle on Facebook and LinkedIn, Srini, and we can start the session.
Okay. Okay, all set.
Sorry. Yeah. Should we start? Yeah.
Yes, Shirin. You can start recording and yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. New day, new beginning. And from this week, for a couple of weeks next, we will be doing our Let Us Talk It youth series on Saturdays. And Saturdays, the same timing, 4 to 5 p.m. EST. We hope that you will benefit and you can have a rested day, and then you join the session, learn something new, spark a desire to know something more, and you will join our youth in the next session possible. So we are extremely excited to have with us some new panelists and some old ones, but a very interesting set of panelists this week. And also a topic that was taken like like hotcakes, if I can say that. Like all the youth were so excited to have this topic, and what better topic can be than to talk about books. The importance of books. When you open a book, you open a new world. So a book can be a best friend who will never walk away from you. And that is the topic for today. And to just tell about Let Us Talk It webinars, we have these webinars, professional webinars, depending on work and life, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. And we have our Let Us Talk It youth webinars every Saturday, 4 to 5 p.m. EST. And the most important thing that we know about books, or we have this feeling that the core and perhaps the unexpected thing is that books what does for us is simplify. It sounds odd, but if we think of literature, we think of sophistication, but there are powerful ways in which books organize and clarify our concerns. And in this way, it also simplifies our life. So if you have a kid who likes reading books or who doesn't like reading books, you can ask them to join our session, and definitely it will stir some feelings, some different ideas to them as well. And for today's panelist, we have with us from UK, Ishita, second year medical student. We have Anvita, fifth grader, Hasni, seventh grader, Siri, ninth grader, Pranav, 10th grader, Oral, sixth grader, And for the first time, we have two panelists, Mahati, a 7th grader, and Parin, a 7th grader as well. And of course, Medha, who was the brainchild for this topic as well. And she is the moderator also. Over to you, Medha.
Thank you, Auntie. So to start off, I just want to say a quick quote by Stephen King, who we all know. He once said books are uniquely portable magic, and you must have heard that in the bite for this week's webinar as well. So time travel and magical portals don't exist in our world as of yet, but something that comes very, very close is a book. So our panelists today are avid readers of not only fantasy, horror, and science fiction, but also biographies, spins on very loved mythologies and spiritual classics. So today we'll be bringing in front of you some of our favorite dimensions that books have taken us to and why we're so fond of them.
So I'm going to be talking a little bit about our agenda or our table of contents for today. So first, we're going to tell you a bit about us, as we always do. You'll get to know your panelists a bit better, and we'll tell you a bit about why we all love reading as well. Then we're going to go on and talk about the magic of books. So why we think you should read, and why once you start, you won't be able to stop. And for our third kind of item on the agenda, we're going to talk about our favorite books and why we love them. So each of us have picked out some of our, most loved, most cherished books, and we're going to explain why we think that you should read them as well. And finally, we'll go to our interactions and Q&A session, where we'd be really grateful if you submitted any questions or, engaged in a bit of discussion with us. I think that makes it really interesting. So over to Hasini, who's going to tell us a bit about herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Hasni and I'm a 7th grader at Ruther Middle School in Michigan. And some things I enjoy doing are playing tennis, doing kuchipudi dance, and hanging out with my friends. When I read, I love to read some types of fantasy and some types of horror books, as they keep me entertained with all the suspense. And it really keeps me hooked to the book, so I love horror.
Hi, my name is RL. I'm a 6th grader at West Elementary in Michigan, and I love to read and play volleyball in my free time. I love to read, and I mostly read mythology, but I'm open to any genre. I like to read mostly because it's always entertaining for me, and I can learn a lot from it.
Hi, my name is Mahadi. I am in 7th grade and I go to Ruther Middle School in Michigan. Some things I like doing are reading and painting. The reason that I read is because it is entertaining and you can learn a lot from books. My favorite genre is fantasy because there are many worlds that you can discover and learn about.
Hey Siri, sorry to interrupt, but your audio is really, really quiet. I'm not sure if it's just for me. Is that the case for the other panelists as well?
Yeah, it's the case for me as well.
Okay. Siri, if you want, we can come back to you if you need to fix something really quick with your audio. Or if you want to say that one more time, it's up to you. Okay, so we'll move on for now. Let's see. Actually, sitting in front of are speaking from the same mic. So as soon as you guys can get that fixed, just jump back in and you can say your introduction one more time, okay? Okay.
So hi, I'm Ishva. As Jill and Auntie said, I'm from Edinburgh in Scotland, in the UK, in Europe, in this planet. I'm a second year medical student at Edinburgh University, which is my city that I live in. When I have free time, I really enjoy staying with my family and kind of having fun with them and my friends, and also singing if I can. But obviously, something I really, really enjoy is reading. And I think reading's had a great part in many people's lives, but especially mine. And I used to be an avid reader, and unfortunately, not as much now, but I'm trying to get back into it. And why I really enjoy reading, apart from like the informational aspect, is largely to do with the idea that you can really escape into different worlds. And I love the idea of escapism and being able to live like someone else, or at least be able to see into someone else's lives. And I think that's so valuable and so important.
Hi everyone, my name is Anvita and I'm in 5th grade at Flores Elementary in Herndon, Virginia. And some of my hobbies are reading, definitely, and writing and biking, and playing the Carnatic violin. I usually read mythology and fiction, and sometimes fantasy. And I like mythology and I like reading because it's really takes you, it's a different experience. Like, especially for me in mythology, when I read it really takes me to a different culture and how they lived and the action that's happening in the book.
Next we have Padin.
Hello, my name is Parin Chitrara. I'm 7th grader at Omni Middle School. In my free time, I like to draw, read, and listen and make music. In my free time, I like to read. I enjoy books because they capture the reader's attention and can surprise you with an interesting scene. My favorite author is H.P. Lovecraft because he is able to make simple daily things into horror for everyone.
Hi everyone, again I'm Maida. I'm a junior in Virginia. And in my free time, I really love spending time with my family, taking my dog out on walks, writing poetry. And I love to read because every time I pick up a new book, I'm kind of spun into a different corner of my mind. And it's almost like as I read page by page, a new world is being constructed in my head brick by brick. So it's a lot of fun. Sometimes it challenges my perspective on things. And overall, reading is my escape pathway. So now that you've gotten to know us a little bit better, we'll be talking about why you should read. So my take on this is you should read because definitely first for the fun element of it. As we've said, every book spins you into a different world, and who doesn't want to escape this world for a bit sometimes? And also, if we think about it intellectually, it improves how well your mind is able to form connections and makes it easier after you've read all these stories about so many amazing different people to empathize with people who may not be very similar to who you are.
Yeah, 100% Maida, I definitely agree. To build on why you should read books, I think that books are a massively concentrated and really valuable source of knowledge. So some person could spend years and years of their life creating this knowledge or writing this book, and you can read it in maybe a week or even shorter than that, depending on how fast of a reader you are, and you absorb all of that knowledge, and that's so valuable, whether it's to do with fictional things or whether it's to do with self-growth. If you're able to take those lessons and you're able to take them on and not have to live through them as much, I think you're definitely learning something, and that's super useful. Another thing is that, as we've already said, you can look through windows into other worlds or lives, and for some people, if you get immersed in it enough, you can almost live it in a certain way as well. I watched an ad the other day for Audible, which you may know as an audiobook streaming service, and they were advertising their service as a holiday to different places and different lands. And I thought that was so apposite, and I thought it was so true. I definitely feel like I've completely went to a different place every time I read, and it's a really easy way of expanding your knowledge and understanding. Every time that I read, I feel like my whole worldview changes and I feel like a slightly altered version of myself. It's massive growth in a short period of time. And also, I really think that it improves your writing and communication just because of the way that you absorb other people's writing and communication, and you can learn all these life lessons too. So if you're not much of a reader, I'm now going to tell you a little bit about how I think you can start becoming more of a reader. So one of the things that I know is really useful is if you start off with a really engaging and fast-paced book to get out of a slump, or to try and get into reading and trying to get into enjoying it a lot. And I think it's really important to remember that any reading is good reading. So while it's really good to read varied and different books from your regular diet, you shouldn't let anyone put you off reading magazines, comics, or webtoons, as a few examples. Any reading is good reading, and make sure you give any book a fair shot. So even if reading isn't your favorite thing, there will be a book out there that you enjoy, or at least something that you learn from or even relate to. There's something valuable out there, so I think it's definitely worth giving it a go. And we'll be giving out a few of our favorites that you may wish to read or be inspired by.
Yep. So those were obviously very, very good points, Ishita. Whether you are someone who's like an avid reader or someone who doesn't like to read as much, I just think if you don't like to read as much, it's probably because you haven't found your right book yet. I always say there's always a book out there for somebody. So a couple of my recommendations, maybe to get you more interested in reading, or if you already love reading, something you should explore. Obviously, everyone's favorite Harry Potter. I have a poster of it right there, if you guys can see. Harry Potter is like my childhood summarized into one series. So Harry Potter for definitely. And I also enjoy dystopian novels. So in dystopian books, I would definitely recommend The Hunger Games, Divergent, some of the classics. And there's also a very nice single book called 359, as in the time 359. And that was something I enjoyed as well. And for the classics, I really enjoyed Charlotte Temple. We actually read it for English class, and I thought it to be very entertaining. And also A Tale of Two Cities. So those are from my end.
I think if Pranav and Siri's audio is working, shall we give it another go at your intro?
Yeah, of course. I think they wanted to introduce right before they presented their books, but we can definitely go back and introduce.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Siri, over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Siri Arcatala, and I'm a freshman at Lambert High School in Georgia. And in my free time, I like to sing, dance, and knit. And I love to read all types of books, but my favorite is fiction, especially science fiction or horror. And I love reading because it provides a distraction from my schoolwork or anything else I'm doing, and it's just really fun.
Hi everyone, hi everyone. My name is Pranav Arkitala, and I'm a sophomore at Lambert High School in Georgia. And some of my hobbies are playing basketball and singing. And some of the books that I enjoy are science fiction and other types of genres as well. And I enjoy reading because they keep me motivated, help thinking, and improve my imagination.
Okay, so thank you, Siri and Pranav. I'm glad we got the technical issues fixed. So now we'll be moving on to telling you guys more in depth some of our favorite books and the dimensions they've taken us to, and also explaining why we love them and why we think you'll also love them if you give them a shot.
So first, I'm going to be talking about the Mahabharata and Ramayana. Indian mythology teaches us myriad things about life. It is a well-known saying that the Hindu epic Ramayana teaches us what to do in life, and the Mahabharata gives us lessons on what we should not do in life. I read these books since they were suggested by my parents to inculcate interest in Indian culture. These books have also helped me win the National Telugu Spelling Bee, as they have very complex text/words in them that I have studied. The books did impart some values like the win of Dharma over Adharma and many more. I would recommend others to read these Indian mythological books to know more about the Indian culture.
Next, we have Aurel.
I'm going to be talking about a book called Talents of Power, which is the 9th book in the Wings of Fire series by T.T. Sutherland. I can relate to this book because the main dragon turtle takes a big risk trying to stop the all-powerful immortal dragon without getting caught. I haven't actually done this, but I've been in a situation in which I think I can't get rid of, but miraculously it works out. In the book, Turtle does get caught, but saves everyone important to him. Then in the next book, the 10th book, called Rise of Dragons, he escapes with the help of the friends that he saved. This is a classic example of how the choices you make now will affect you in the future. This book taught me that you should never be mean to people because it could come back to bite you later. This is one of my favorite books because it's in a series. It's action-packed, and you will learn important lessons. Even though Turtle is used to being invisible, even though he is a magical dragon, he is used to being the sidekick or an extra. But now he has to save the world and come out of his shell. I would totally recommend this book to anyone that wants to read it.
One of the books that I picked is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Angie Thomas focuses mainly on the Black community and the struggles they put up with every day. The genre of this book is realistic fiction. I started this book because it addresses a real life and a serious problem. This book is about how the main character, Star, struggles with the pressure of two communities, the mostly Black one and the white classy one. As she is coming home from a party one night with her best friend Khalil, he is shot by a white policeman. Star sees everything. She tries to withstand the pressure of her two lives becoming one. She navigates her way through relationships, threats, and many struggles as she tries to bring justice to Khalil's name. Star also learns a lot about others and herself in the process. This focuses on a problem that we have today. Many Black Americans are killed each day because of their skin color. Please sign petitions at change.org. You should read this because it educates you. I would recommend this book to teens 13 years old and older.
Flowers for Algernon is a science fiction or psychological fiction novel written by Daniel Keyes in 1959. It tells the story of Charlie Gordon, a retarded adult, in first-person perspective as he goes through a procedure to increase his intelligence. One can see as he confronts his abusive past, his newfound intelligence, and how it affects his relationships and life. The title of this book refers to a mouse who had gone through the same procedure to increase his intelligence. The effects of the procedure are apparent in the mouse, who is a major symbol in this book. The most important theme in this book is IQ and EQ, which is intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. As we have talked about in our previous webinar on October 9th, about discussing the importance of emotional maturity in your life, this book reflects this through the main character. Even though he has all this IQ, he cannot put it to use due to his EQ. Although his IQ grows upwards to 185 and he learns over 15 languages, his emotional maturity is still that of an adolescent. This barrier of intelligence, and especially emotions, becomes a barrier between him and others in his life. Another theme in this book is happiness and friendship. People often say that ignorance is bliss. This was often the case in this book. At the bakery that Charlie Gordon would work at, many people would laugh at him because of his autism, and Charlie Gordon would just laugh along with them, unaware that they were making fun of him. After the procedure, he understands this behavior and loses most of his friends, who weren't really his friends, and becomes unhappy. He also starts to understand his relationships with his abusive mother and becomes depressed. The final theme in this book is authority and control. When they perform the procedure, some of the researchers feel that they are playing God in order to feel some sort of control over the inevitable fate that the mentally diseased must go through. Overall, I think this book has a lot of themes that apply to a lot of places in your life, and I think teens, like at least over the age of 13, should be able to read this because it has some mature themes, and I really like this book.
I picked Fahrenheit 451 as my book by Ray Bradbury, and its genre is dystopian. And Guy Montag is a fireman who burns books in a futuristic American city. In Montag's world, firemen start fires rather than putting them out. The people in this society do not read books, enjoy nature, spend time by themselves, think independently, or have meaningful conversations. Instead, they drive very fast, watch a lot of television on what they called wall side sets, and listen to the radio on seashell radio sets attached to their ears. The society that Bradbury depicts has given up books because they chose to, and people do not feel oppressed or censored. Books are important because they record humanity's accomplishments and mistakes. These records help to prevent humanity from repeating its mistakes. And another theme was dehumanization. And there are two examples of this in this book, because one is when an old lady was burnt to death, and she was burnt to death because she was caught with books in her home. So I think it teaches like the younger generation how to like, whatever you're reading, just like try to like grasp a lot of it, not just like, like don't let information fly by. So yeah.
So one of the books that I'm going to be talking about is Sita, or an illustrated retelling of the Ramayana. In the picture behind, you can see a picture from the original Ramayana. So if we move on, I'm going to talk a little bit about the genre first. So as I've kind of alluded to, this version of the Ramayana is contemporary Hindu mythology, and the themes that you'll find in most versions of this epic are heroism, duty, honor, and loyalty, good versus evil, teaching, and morality. The themes in Sita are very similar, however, they also include the ideas of fidelity, property and self-image, patriarchy, and society. And this is mainly due to the fact that it focuses on the main character's wife as opposed to the main character, or at least both of them are main characters. And it asks the question, if Ram is supposed to be famous for having one wife, why did he abandon her in the woods? And I thought this was a really interesting question to answer. So another reason why I like it, and also what I got from it, mainly comes from the framing. So I really appreciate the framing of this book and how it focuses on Sita rather than Rama, and I think it adds a really fresh kind of layer to it, and it improved my understanding of some of the bigger questions that I had after learning about the Ramayana the first time. Something else I really appreciate is the mythological wonder that was created in this book. So I really love fairy tales, I really love mythology in general, and I really appreciate the methods of storytelling that are used in both of these and that the author uses so well in this book. Another thing that I really appreciate are the themes that are kind of conveyed across in this, and it really makes for super interesting reading. Something else that makes it really good is the format and how that leads to accessibility. So each chapter is titled, and they're relatively short chapters as well, so you can even just read a chapter and then move on. And then afterwards, there's a grey section where it tells you more about the various versions of the Ramayana and how different myths might tell the story a bit differently, which I think is really important and really easy to understand. And the illustrations, of course, are really lovely too.
Next, we have Anvita.
Hi everyone, my name is Anvita Tangala and I'm going to be talking about the book Percy Jackson's Greek Gods. But first of all, before I elaborate on it, I would like to talk about what mythology is from my perspective. Mythology is a variety of different myths and maybe superstitions passed down from one generation to the other in different cultures by word of mouth or ancient scriptures and stories. Usually, myths are about heroes who fought bravely in wars or gods and stories about them, and a variety of different things. Like in our Hindu culture, we have the Pandavas and Krishna, and many more gods and stories on them, and about the heroes who fought in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Another example is from Greek culture. There is this one hero named Odysseus that suggested the idea that the Greeks built the Trojan horse, which got them to win the Trojan War. And relating to that now, I would like to explain about my book, Percy Jackson and the Greek Gods. So what this book about is it explains myths from Greek culture, and this book is fictional and mythological because the narrator that is telling the myths and stories is the son of Poseidon, the Greek god of the waters, but he's not real. And since there's many stories in myths in this book, I learned a lot about Greek gods and heroes. Like this one story where Hephaestus, the god of the forge, who was the son of Hera, the queen of the gods, wanted revenge on Hera for throwing him out of the cliff. But that was just a tidbit of the book and its stories. But if you want more, this is a great book. I think, like me, if someone is interested in mythology or wants to try something new, this is a great book for you.
Next, we have Padin.
So my book's name is called Tales of Horror by H.P. Lovecraft. The the theme of the genre of this book is cosmic suspense and horror. The theme is suspense and ocean horror. This the summary of this book is that Tales of Horror isn't really about scary monsters or anything. It's more about to warn of how mankind's curiosity can put him in danger if he is not careful. One scene showed that a man curiously ventured through a sea floor with his companion. At the end, it reveals that the man's companion was killed by a large and strange creature called the Chithulu, which is off to kill the man because he had stepped into the Chithulu's territory, disturbing its slumber. Soon the man realizes that the Chithulu was locked up in the sea to stop its rampaging the land. Now the man had to pay for the life of his companion and the millions of lives to follow. I would recommend this book to anyone who is fascinated with cosmic horror and suspense that has to do with the sea.
All right, so hi everyone again. This is Maida. My book that I wanted to share with you guys is called Being Mortal, and the author is Atul Gawande. So on the left side, you can see an image of the actual book, the cover, and on the right side, what looks like a seemingly unrelated image to the story is actually very, very relevant because it's an image of an important concept that the book covers. So just by looking at the painting, you can tell that it's a very ancient Greek painting. And there's a story associated with this painting. That's a Homeric hymn. And for those of you who don't know, Homer is a very celebrated Greek author, and he wrote some very important classics, such as the Odyssey. So the story goes, Eos, this woman right over here, she was the goddess of dawn, and she was deeply in love with a mortal man named Tithonus. And she couldn't bear that one day he would die, so she begged Zeus that her lover be granted immortality. The poem says, too simple was queenly Eos. She thought not in her heart to ask youth for him and to strip him of the slough of deadly age. And what that means is that he is immortal, but he will become an old man and stay immortal in that age, forever having to hold on to that pain. So when they were young, Eos and Tithonus lived very happily for many years until Tithonus began to show signs of age. And as time went on, obviously as he grew older, he became tortured by his immortality, and his body, as he became older, continued to fail. And at one point, he became so weak that he could not even lift his limbs. Eos obviously was unable to cure him of his miseries, but because of Zeus's wish, who gave him the wish of being immortal, she also was unable to let him die. So finally, she laid him in a room where he babbled endlessly and no more had the strength that he once had in his limbs. So the reason I share the story with you is because it shows the plight of old age, which is the main concept in being mortal, and how medicine plays a role in that. And as we all know, medicine has achieved what once was wishful thinking for mankind, such as making childbirth, injury, and deadly diseases much more manageable with revolutionary cures and treatments. But when it comes to the reality of old age and death, and it's actually stated on Atul Gawande's website, what medicine can do often runs counter to what it should. And he uses eye-opening research and stories of his own patients and family, as Atul Gawande is a practicing surgeon, and he reveals the suffering the dynamic has produced. He talks about nursing homes at a point because they're devoted above all to safety, and sometimes they fight with their residents over the food they're allowed to eat and the choices they're allowed to make in their life. And doctors are sometimes uncomfortable discussing patients' anxieties about death. and they fall back on false hopes and treatments that are actually shortening lives instead of improving them, and families go along with all of it. So basically, just to summarize, as stated by the author himself, being mortal shows that the ultimate goal is not a good death, but a good life all the way to the very end. And this book is not only for professionals in medicine, or medical students, or even kids who want to go into medicine. It's useful for everyone for how to live prioritizing quality above quantity. And I would recommend this for 13 plus, just because it's much nicer if when you read it, you can understand some of the more mature concepts that it discusses.
Next book that I'm going to be talking about is called The Girl in the Locked Room. And as you can see, this is a mystery/horror genre. I enjoy this book because I usually enjoy thriller and horror movies, so I'm always eager to find out what's going to happen next. I love the suspense. I usually don't like reading in general, but if it's a genre such as horror or mystery, I'm always open to reading it. A brief summary about this book is that a girl is locked in a room in an old abandoned house for over 100 years. She is afraid and lonely, and a girl named Jules and her family moves into that house, and Jules is also very lonely now. She's starting her life over again in a new town, a new house, and a new school full of new people. She sees a pale face when she first moves, and she's very scared and then fascinated by what she discovers. She thinks that this is a great start and is determined to befriend the girl in the locked room. Past, present, and future all interrupt their journey to unlock the door and discover all the chilling secrets in history about the family who used to live in this house over 100 years ago. I totally recommend this book if you like suspense and horror. If you do read it, then some chilling events await you.
My second book is called Spy School by Gibbs, and its genre is mystery, and its theme is anyone can do great things. Spy School is book 1 of the Spy School series. Benjamin Ripley, a normal middle school nerd with an affinity for math, comes home one day to find an agent from the CIA and an application form waiting for him. Ben said yes immediately and is whisked off to spy school, where an evil organization called Spider, Spyder, reveals itself wanting to blow up the school. Ben stops them only to find he was supposed to be bait for a mission. Not only that, his friend was working for Spider, but now he's in spy school and he has saved it. The theme I chose for this book was anyone can do great things, because Ben's a normal kid with only an affinity for math as his weapon, but he ends up saving the CIA. I would definitely recommend this book to anyone between the ages of 8 to 13. My last book is called The Serpent's Shadow. It's by and it is the concluding book for the Kane Chronicle series. So you should start at book 1, The Red Pyramid, if you want to go through it properly. But its genre is Egyptian mythology, and the theme I chose for it is we'll go to that later. The book is written from 2 points of view, Carter and Sadie Kane. They are the main characters in it, and after a mass murder in a museum, a horrific school dance, and a dying boyfriend, Carter and Sadie set out to save the world from an evil snake called Apophis. They need help from an evil ghost named Kamaswas and save the world. The theme of this book is even when all the odds are against you, you can still turn things around. I would recommend this book to all ages.
A book that I found really interesting is The Selection by Kiera Cass. The reason why I picked this book is because I have a great interest in fantasy books, and this one seemed interesting to me. This book is about a once-in-a-lifetime chance. All the people in Alea are split into castes, the highest being a 1 and the lowest 8s. It is also where the selection takes place. The selection is a reality contest where 35 girls compete at the castle to win the princess hand and become the next queen. America Singer doesn't want to as she is a 5 in the caste system, but her family needs the money. She goes through difficult tasks and falls in love in the process. She then discovers bone-chilling secrets and tries to understand them with the threat of rebels declaring war looming over them. She finally uncovers the truth once and for all. The theme in this book is bravery because she does things that she believes in no matter what other people think. Another theme is courage because she knew the consequences but she still did it. I'd recommend this book to ages 12 and plus. This is also part of a series, so definitely read all of them. My other book that I picked is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Becky Albertalli has written 4 books that are all revolving around the Creekwood community, which is where they take place. All of these books focus on a different struggle, such as finding your sexuality and accepting the LGBTQ plus community. I picked this book because it has a life lesson behind the pages. This book is mainly about how Simon is blackmailed by one of his classmates to come out. Simon has to play wingman for Martin, or else his secret will be public. He struggles to keep his friends and find comfort within this struggle. Simon also has to keep it a secret because the privacy of a boy he has been emailing, Blue, might be compromised. Will the students accept him? I think the theme in this book is friendship. I think this because he develops stronger bonds with them even when their friendship is tested. I would recommend this book to ages 12 and plus.
All Quiet on the Western Front tells the story of Paul Baumer, a 19-year-old German soldier fighting on the French front in World War I. This book is written by Enrique Maria Remarque in 1929 based on his own experiences in World War I. Its genre is historical fiction. In the book, Paul and his friends, who had joined the war together, find their visions of honor and war shattered by the brutality and death. One by one, Paul sees his comrades perish in front of his eyes, and the book finally ends with one single line from an army report: "All quiet on the Western Front." Even though this book took place in World War I, its themes are relevant to this day. The first theme in this book is identity and innocence. As the war continues, Paul's previous dreams of becoming a writer are shattered as he increasingly feels a sense of impending doom. He doesn't know what he will do after the war, as it consumes him and his friends. His innocence is broken down by the carnage of the brutal war and death he must see every day. The soldiers, especially those much younger than him, were brought to the front lines of this reality as Germany came to its defeat. Another major theme is war in general. Although political leaders and the older generations tend to romanticize war as a picture of glory, honor, and patriotism, this is the complete opposite of the harsh reality of it. In World War I, new inventions like machine guns, poison gas, and trenches made killing easier and much more impersonal than ever before. The brutality and violence is hardly glossed over in this book. We get to see firsthand the psychological effects that war can have on a soldier. The most important theme that I learned in this book was of nationalism and loyalty, and how meaningless these two expressions really are. One instance in the book, Paul had to kill a French soldier who had fallen into his trench. He is overcome with guilt as he learns that this man had a family and children and a life he would have gone back to. As we see in this book, the borders between countries become borders that restrict one's humanity, as we are forced to kill people who might as well be our brothers and sisters. I think that the themes of this book are pretty much universal, and I would recommend this book to teens 13 and older, as this book sometimes has a bit of gore and can be a bit traumatizing to read, as it's about a war. Overall, I think the themes are very important, and I really enjoyed this book. My next book is Death Note. Death Note is a visual novel written by Sugami Oba in 2006, and the genre is mystery and psychological thriller. In the book, a high schooler, Light Yagami in Japan, discovers a supernatural book called the Death Note, which allows him to order the death of any person by writing his or her name in the book. He chooses to use his power to murder all those he deems unworthy of life, like criminals. He is intoxicated by this new power and wants to become a god who judges right and wrong. He conceals this power from his friends and family and evades capture from the authorities. The biggest theme in this book is justice and morality, as the main character grapples with the question, is killing bad people wrong? The second theme is power and God. The story questions who gets to decide what morality actually is. Is it objective, subjective, or non-existent? Finally, a major theme is pride. The main character, again, feels powerful by having the ability to kill people anonymously. This pride of having this power is what leads to his downfall. This story is very fast-paced and exciting, and I would recommend this book to anyone who likes mystery or action.
Okay, so Lord of the Flies is a book by William Golding in 1954, and its genre is fiction because it uses some elements like a conch shell that represents that it's put into life. So in the midst of a raging war, a plane evacuated a group of schoolboys from Britain is shot down over a deserted tropical island. Two of the boys, Ralph and Piggy, discover a conch shell on the beach, and Piggy realized it could be used as a horn to summon the other boys. They develop rules and a system of organization, but without any adults to serve as a civilizing impulse. The children eventually become violent and brutal. The fragile civilization created by the boys on the island fragments, and the boys divide into two camps. Ralph and Piggy remain civilized, continuing to obey and uphold the rules despite the threat from violence of Jack's hunters, who symbolizes savagery. This is a great book for all readers because it explores human nature. Golding shows that he did not create characters for the sake of having characters in this book, but all the characters have an importance. So the other book that I chose, and this is one of my personal favorites, is Night by Elie Wiesel, and its genre is a memoir from his point of view, Elie Wiesel, and what he felt like, the events that he has gone through in this in the Holocaust. So Night is so crucial because it showed me that the Holocaust happened to individuals, not to just a mass of strangers. It has changed the way the world conceives of genocide by putting a face and a name to such terrible suffering. And it showed the beauty in the broken, the fact that Wiesel survived and got a chance to write. This book will teach us about how to survive in tough situations, like how Elie Wiesel was in the concentration camps and had to face terrible situations from the Nazi soldiers. There's also faith that Elie Wiesel talks about throughout the course of the book. He felt that in every intense situation, God was with him, but he still lost some faith in God because when he was snatched away from the soldiers in his hometown in Sighet, Romania. This book is recommended to all ages because it gives a firsthand account of the horrors that the Jewish people faced at the hand of the Nazis. The personal thoughts of Wiesel gives an insight to how Jewish people reacted to the situation of the concentration camps and how some lost their faith like Elie Wiesel did. And this book was written in 1956. And some of the parts are a little bit like, uncomfortable for readers younger than the age of 13. So I think it's a good book to read when you're like 13 and above.
So my second book that I wanted to talk about is probably one of my favorites. I can't really say what my favorite is, but this is definitely up there. So this is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I know many people really love this book, and it's remained a classic for so many reasons. So the genre can be described as a satire, it can be described as a novel of manners, which I think best describes it, but there's also a romantic element as well, which is really nice. Some of the themes that are explored by this book include love, the idea of reputation, as this book is set in the Regency era, so around the 1700s to the early 1800s. It also discusses societal class and rules, as well as family and friends, especially the idea of sisterhood, and integrity of yourself and of others, gender and the roles that that can play within the societal class and rules, as well as first impressions and discernment, which is a massive part of this book, and it was almost what the title was going to be called. So I think one of the reasons why this book is so perennially popular is because of the characters. So something that I really appreciated about this was the difference in characters and obviously the exploration of the manners. So what was nice was being able to look at the differences between the sisters and between their friends as well, and how they approached life. So if we move on, I'm going to be showing you a little bit about how other people have also interpreted this. So what's really nice about a book, I think in general, is each person has their own individual screenplay of what's going on. And some people have been kind enough to adapt Pride and Prejudice multiple times. And I love this book so much that I keep watching them, even though it's the same story essentially. But the characters are so robust and so wonderfully portrayed that it never really gets old. So this is one of my favorite adaptations. It's the movie version that came out in 2005. The next one is a TV series that everyone also really, really enjoys. And the one after that is a more interesting one about Pride and Prejudice and zombies. So that's quite cool as well. I think that's a book as well. And the penultimate one is Bride and Prejudice, which kind of also explores Indian culture within the context of Pride and Prejudice. Again, really interesting. And the final one that I have up is a web series called The Lizzie Bennet Diaries. I enjoyed each and every one of these, and I think it's absolutely fascinating that so many people had different ways of interpreting one book that was written so long ago. And I think it's really cool that some people have chosen to share this with us. And I think it's really interesting to go back to the source material, the original book, and read that. So I would highly recommend it if you haven't already read it. The next book I'll be talking about is Rebecca. So it's by Daphne du Maurier, and the genre is gothic fiction or romance. If you've read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, then you'll have an idea of what this book is kind of like. It's supposed to be a sister novel to the book. So actually in school we read both of the books and we compared them, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating and a really, really interesting read. The themes that are included involve marriage, love, coming of age, and as well as society and class. And I think these are really interesting because it shows a lot about what a young woman might go through as she's growing up and the kind of circumstances that the main character is thrown into really explore this beautifully. And I really enjoyed the way that this book was written. So it was really lush kind of words rather than just being essentially about the plot. It was really nice to kind of have all that description and have it, you know, read for the sake of reading and write for the sake of writing. And I think that was really nice.
Hi everyone. My second book, Game of Stars, is by Sayantani Dasgupta. This is the second book in the series, so if you want to read this series, start with the first book, The Serpent Secret. In my opinion, this book was a great book, and you can also say it was a great experience to open the portal of this book, because this book teaches you about Indian mythology, and it was full of action. This book is about a girl named Kiranmala who's a normal girl, and she found out about her past and her biological parents. And she also learned about the other fictional worlds that are there in the book. The book really pulls you with the main character, Kiranmala, and you'll really feel that you get to experience what adventure she's having and how she's going through the story. I think the theme of this book is about making sacrifices and finding out your friends and foes, because in the book, she said she had to make some sacrifices because her friends had to go and they had to leave her through the book. And the other theme is finding out your friends and foes. So in the book, she has to find, like, there is like basically a challenge in the book, like near the middle, where it was like she had to find out who her real friends were and who were spying for the evil father that she had. And so I thought this book was a really great book, and it's recommended for all ages.
Next, we have Padin.
My second book is The Last Kids on Earth by Max Brawlier. The genre of this book is action, and the theme of it is slaying monsters. This book is about a kid named Jack who got separated from his friends during a monster apocalypse. He also encounters a strange beast that had caused the monster apocalypse. While Jack is gathering his lost friends and making a plan to kill the beast starts to stalk him to kill him because Jack had previously scarred the beast's eye. I like the vengeance of the beast because it gives a retelling about how a post-apocalyptic world would be if we were in one. I would recommend this book to anyone who is a fan of monsters and post-apocalyptic worlds.
All right, so our last book is the one I picked. I believe it's our last book, is The Beauty and the Beast. So I know most of you must have read this book or at least know the story. So I'll just go over the most important themes and lessons we can take from it in the form of symbols throughout the story, because that's what Disney's most famous for, symbolism. And that's also why these fables attract everyone from 4-year-old girls who want to be princesses, which was me at one point. I wanted to be just like Belle and dressed up as her for so many Halloweens. Also, they also attract adults who understand some of the deeper meanings in the stories. So, in Beauty and the Beast specifically, I think the most apparent theme is inner beauty versus external beauty. Belle is perhaps the most selfless character we've ever seen in a novel, because the driving force of the story is how she loves the Beast despite his many flaws, and that's something we as humanity need now more than ever, of being tolerant and looking beyond the external mask. The next symbol is the beautiful rose. It represents hope, also that time is finite. And without spoiling the story, because I know there's quite a couple people who probably haven't read the story in detail, I'll just say that time is running out for the beast as each petal falls, but also represents hope, because Belle never loses hope and always believes the beast will change and they will end up together. The next symbol / very important thing in the story are books. Also, what our webinar is about. Belle loves books. It's a huge part of the story, and which is also one of the big reasons I relate to Belle so much. This gigantic library shows just how much there is to learn in the world and so much information in so many different forms. So the next thing that I love about the story and what I took away from it is to never stop learning, because you never know everything that there is to know. Next, we have Chip. Chip is a chipped cup. Obviously, he's not a perfect teacup because he's broken. This imperfect character saves the day, and I won't spoil by giving away too many details. So what I took from this is that there's so much beauty and imperfection. I mean, just look at Chip. He looks so adorable, and your flaws actually make you stronger. And the last thing I want to say about Beauty and the Beast is it taught us what all Disney stories taught us. When the beast transforms into a charming prince at the end, it pulls you into that magical world. So I always say believe in magic, because things happen with only hard work, but I also think a little sprinkle of pixie dust is needed sometimes. So now that we've all shown you guys, talked about recurrent themes, why we love our favorite books so much, we now have a quick interactions and question and answer session where please feel free to submit your questions either on the Zoom chat or the YouTube or Facebook chat, and we'll definitely try to answer them in the call today.
I think right before we go to our questions, I think one of our panelists actually has something that they would like to add. if
Oh, yeah.
Nasi would like to speak about his favorite books. I know that we were lucky enough to see a picture of your library and it was very impressive. I'm very jealous.
Hello, everyone. Not really to talk about my favorite books. If I get started on that, I'll have to take up the whole session myself. But just wanted to congratulate everyone on the excellent presentations today. And what a choice of books. Oh my gosh, the range. Fiction, nonfiction, starting from teenage, fable type, parable fable type, Beauty and the Beast, all the way up to Atul Gawande and David Patnaik, some of the most leading thinkers of our contemporary times, and the themes, amazing themes. Just want to share a couple of thoughts. One, the reason I love reading, I have come to realize, is that you get to have a one-on-one conversation with some of the most creative and some of the most active brains that lived on this earth, whether it be Homer or Valmiki, or whether it is somebody more recent, or whether it's people who are living now, Nobel Prize winners, Pulitzer winners, Booker Prize winners. All these people are basically sitting in front of you and having this conversation with you. Just because you're reading the word, don't think that you're only taking the information one way. They are talking and you're listening. Listening is half of the communication. And when you read, it is more so in creative writing, in fiction, but still, even in reading nonfiction, the reader brings half of the transaction to the table. As a reader, what you take in and how you process it and how you make it your own is half of the equation. So I want to leave that idea with you when you pick up your book the next time, that you are having this conversation with that author. And just imagine, whether it be Jane Austen, what a creativity she had, or whether it is contemporary leading thinkers like Atul Gawande, what kind of revolutionary ideas they are putting out, and you're having this conversation with them. Yeah. So this is beautiful. The second thing I want to say, I was really glad somebody brought up Fahrenheit 451. That story, that book, is so symbolic of what we are talking about. And a couple of other stories also had a bearing on the kind of polarized brother pitted against the brother type of situation we are living in America right now, where it is so difficult to have a sane conversation with people who differ in fundamental ideas from you. So I want you to think about book and words as a means of communication, and as a way of stepping beyond our boundaries. How, if you imagine yourself as on one side of anything, a political equation, a political ideology, or a way of life, whatever, right? Right, left versus religious versus non-religious, all kinds of divisions are there. And you have a sense of identity about what you are, about yourself. And think about how you can reach a hand across the barrier to the other side as a means of extending that conversation. And I feel books can play a role in that as well. come. So I want to congratulate each and every one of you, and both the lovely moderators, Medha and Ashita, efficiently done. I even attended one of the very first prep sessions, I guess. That was pretty cool. I learned a few tricks. I've been an old horse at these, PowerPoint making and stuff like that. So all my things are still, kind of stuck in the old PowerPoint age. But all the cool things you guys are doing, really, really nice. So I learned a few tricks. So thank you for that. I hope to make it to the next session also. Is it next week? The books two conversation is next week.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope to make it to that too. So let's see. All right. So last but not the least, I think some of you may know, I am a creative writer. I have been writing short fiction, and I do have a few short stories in English. I believe they are age appropriate. So if anybody is interested in reading them, let me know. I will be happy to share them with you. All right, with that, I'll hand it back to Medha. So I'll continue to listen.
Thank you so much, Nasi Uncle.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that was
Good job.
Sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say that I would absolutely be interested in your creative stories. I think that's so cool, and that's really inspiring for us as well. I think I did say at the beginning, if you read really well, then you'll be a really good writer. So with your level of reading, I can only imagine how good of a writer you'll be, Uncle.
I hope so. All right, I'll be happy to share some, sure.
Thank you. I think in the Q&A section, Virat has said, I have a book like The Hate You Gave, and it's blended with a similar theme, and the main character has also gone through being shot. That's really cool that you can relate then to one of the stories that other people have read, and maybe that's a book that some of us can read if we're interested as well. Thank you for sharing that. If anyone else has any questions or observations, please do share them. But I think Medha has a question, yes?
Yes, so we actually have 4 questions from the audience. So one specific to us. So we'll go over the one specific to us first before going to the more general ones, which we all can answer to end. And we'll try going as fast as possible since we're already over 5. So
just one quick thing, Medha. There I see in the chat section, Virat Vivan, he had something to say. Can you quickly unmute yourself and ask or tell Virat?
Sorry, I posted the same thing in the 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question we got, which actually we already answered in the chat, but it'd be nice if we can also answer live, is from Abi. He asked, how would you say this book has impacted your views on the LGBTQ plus community? And that's to Mahadi, because she talked about a beautiful book called, I'm sorry, The Simon. Can you repeat the title one more time?
Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. Yeah, okay. I have always supported the LGBTQ plus community, but this book has made me realize how hard it is to tell other people and come out. And some people aren't very fond of them too, so that adds pressure. But after reading this book, I actually respect them even more.
Awesome. Okay, so we can move on to the general questions. So the first one, and general meaning all of us should go ahead and answer this. The first one is, who's your all-time favorite character from a book? And it doesn't have to be a book that you spoke about today. It can be anything. To start, we'll go with Hasini.
So my favorite character in a book would probably be Harry Potter in the Harry Potter book series, because if I do read, I like to read that series, and yeah, he's a really brave character in the series, along with a funny personality. So
yeah, actually my character is also someone from Harry Potter, but I'll get to me later. Next we have Aurel.
If I had to pick a favorite character, I would probably pick Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series. She's smart and she can handle things in an instant, but she's really fierce too.
That was my character. It's fine. Yeah, I'll just say what I have to say about Hermione. I think she has a lot of strength and wisdom, and she also stands by her friends, which I think is a super duper important quality to have. And even though she gets herself into all kinds of messes with Harry and Ron, When she's there, there's always an adventure, and she always finds a super smart way out of everything. So I love her too. Okay, next we have Mahati.
My character is also from the Harry Potter series and is Luna Lovegood. And the reason that I like her is because she has a lot of hope and she's always looking on the bright side during the entire series. And that's like really important.
Yeah, definitely. And then Siri, Pranav, Nishita, and Anvita, Parn. That's the order.
My favorite character that I personally like is Guy Montag because he shows courage against an oppressive government. Yeah.
My favorite character is Johann from the visual novel Monster, and I really like his character because he's a villain, and he has such a complex background, so it's not easy to tell whether he's a villain or not, and I really enjoy those types of characters.
I haven't read those, but I would love to someday. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. I just thought it was really interesting when I think, was it Oral? It might have been Oral or it might have been Hasni, and they said their favorite character was Harry Potter, because I know many people are always like, oh, no one's favorite character in Harry Potter is ever actually Harry Potter. So I thought that was really interesting. Maybe my favorite character that I can think of right now, probably because I've presented it, is Elizabeth Bennet. Just because as soon as I read that book, I felt like she was a kindred spirit. I think it's a bit like, self-boisterous to kind of pretend like I'm like Elizabeth Bennet, but I would like to be like her. And it's nice to kind of think, I think we share some of the same ideals, and little things like in family I can relate to and stuff as well. So I really, really enjoyed that book. I really enjoyed her friendships that she makes and the way she kind of takes life, even though she does have her own flaws. I think they're quite good flaws to have. So yeah, Elizabeth Bennet for now. If I come up with other ones, I'll let you know.
I think I would like from the Kane Chronicles, I would like, or from Percy Jackson, or from the Kane Chronicles, I like Sadie Kane, because she's super fierce and brave, and like she can like never take down a challenge.
Parn, do you have one? Okay, we can move on. We have one last question. Unless anyone sees something in the chat, let me know if I missed anything. The last one is, who's our favorite author and why? Anyone can just take this up. You don't have to go in a certain order.
I like Rick Riordan because he makes his novels like very energetic and enthusiastic, because it really pulls you into the story. Because like one day I spent reading a Rick Riordan novel like the entire day because I didn't want to leave it until I finished it. So
I love Rick Riordan too.
One of my favorite. Oh, do you want to go?
No. I was gonna say anyone else, but yeah, or I'll go ahead.
One of my favorite authors of all time, she wrote Harry Potter. It's J.K. Rowling. She always makes her books so action-packed, and they always have really good plots. I love Rick Riordan too, but sometimes he makes bad things happen to the characters, so.
I don't know if we're still going in order, but I used to really enjoy, I think it's R.L. Stein, the person that wrote Goosebumps. I quite enjoyed his books, and I remembered each one of them I found like a little bit like, it just gave me the shivers, and I enjoyed that as a child. And I've also just put in the chat, I think Mother Uncle's put that he really loved Enid Blyton and Jane Austen, and I absolutely adored Enid Blyton. I would not stop reading her books, whether it was The Secret Seven or The Famous Five. And my mum also used to read both Jane Austen and Enid Blyton. So when I went back to India, I would take her books and I would read them. So I really loved them. I think George was my favorite character in the Enid Blyton books because she was so fierce. But yeah.
My favorite author is also J.K. Rowling, and it's probably because that was like the only series that really had me hooked to read the next book and the next book and so on. And I really liked how each one had a different plot with different things happening with the like really good characters.
So my favorite author is, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, Chetan Bhagat. He actually wrote the book that I'm pretty sure most of you have watched it, Three Idiots. Do you guys know that movie? So he actually wrote the book that movie's based on. So was someone saying something?
I have watched videos and it's favorite. So.
Yeah. So he's a really, really good author. And what I like most about his writing is that it's really realistic. And I'm Indian American, as we all are. So we can kind of relate to being in America, but we also kind of miss India sometimes. And his books are Indian, obviously, and they're very they kind of talk about characters as real people and focus and don't make them perfect. He kind of talks about all their flaws and that kind of drives the story. So I really like his books. Mahati, Siri, Pranav, Padan's here. Do you guys have anything to add?
One of my favorite authors is R.J. Palacio because she gives different perspectives on people with disabilities, and she does like different views and their thoughts and all that stuff.
Okay, so my favorite author is Ray Bradbury because like most of his books have like what it is, what could happen in the future, and like the freedom of thought and censorship, the themes I included in the webinar. So yeah.
My favorite author is Haruki Murakami, and I haven't read a lot of his books, but I really enjoy his writing, and I enjoy his themes. Like he blends fantastical elements into everyday life in a way that highlights the characters' struggles and a lot of themes. Yeah.
And actually, before we move on from Siri, we actually have a question for you. If you want to answer, it's totally up to you. Because I don't know what Avi's talking about, but if you know, go ahead. Who's better, Light or L?
Okay, so this is a hard question because I love both of those characters. They're all very complex. Personally, for me, I was not rooting for Light. I was for like the first portion, but I don't agree with his philosophy that bad people should be killed. I don't think like capital punishment is even good. I'm completely against that. So I did not like him, his philosophy and stuff. And yeah, I think L is a way better character. He knows exactly what he wants. He's very intelligent and okay, I don't want to go into it too much because that would be spoilers. But L is my favorite.
Okay, so I think we've answered all the questions that we got. If anyone else has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat, but otherwise, I think we're done. Good job, everyone.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful job, kids. Yeah, please go ahead, Julian.
No, please. Honor is yours, please.
Yeah, a wonderful, another wonderful session again, and really impressed by the topics and what we can learn from all these books. And that's just a very nice bird's eye view overview on all these, and then we can really pick and read from some of these books. So thank you so much. And yeah, I think if we don't have any other questions or any other comments from the team, then probably we can conclude for today. And then we'll continue with, I think the Zoom will continue, though we'll stop, the YouTube, Facebook live streaming. The Zoom will stop to, have, more discussion about the planning for the, next future topics. And all I know, next week we are doing the same books, probably with new panelists. Yeah, and thank you all for watching. And it's all about youth engagement and youth empowerment. That's what the Let's Talk It team believes in. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, youth. You have been fabulous. And the new two participants, they have been also, Mahati was just trying to, it didn't even feel like that she's doing it for the first time. So special thanks to you. And thank you, Natsiji, for, contributing to the conversation. And totally one one thing that I want to add here is that book reading is now no longer a good thing or, something that we can think about. It has almost become an exercise, good for our brains, and we will find new friend with having new books. So check out a book that you haven't and see a world of difference. So with that, we end this session. Thank you everyone for joining in. And please do not forget to join in for our professional webinars, which happen every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. EST, and youth webinars that happen on Saturday, 4 to 5 p.m. EST. And next week's youth webinar topic, as Srini said, would be part 2 of today's session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.